Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Today it is collab time. Denise over at Dish with D is hosting this Halloween sweets and treats collab. So after you watch my video, make sure you click on the description box below, and Denise's channel and all the other wonderful men and women who are participating in this collab will be linked below. Go check them out because I am sure there are going to be some fantastic treats for your fall and Halloween baking. So if you are new here, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. Today I am making for you pumpkin scones. If you've been around me, you know my favorite thing in the world is tea. What goes better with a cup of tea than a scone? And what flavor goes better in the fall than pumpkin? So I am going to make for you some pumpkin scones. So let's get started on this recipe. Okay, for our scones, we are going to need 2 cups of self-rising flour. If you like, you can use 1 cup of whole wheat flour and 1 cup of self-rising, but we're going to use just 2 cups of self-rising. If you do not have self-rising flour, you can make your own by taking 1 cup of all-purpose flour and adding 1½ teaspoons of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I will have that in the recipe, which is linked below. We're going to need salt. Then we're going to need cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, ground cloves, ground ginger. You can probably substitute pumpkin pie spice, but I like doing each one individually because then I can tailor it to my tastes. You're also going to need a brown sugar replacement. This is actually the Lakanto monk fruit brown sugar. It's not the golden, it's the actual brown sugar. You're going to need some vanilla extract. You're going to need 1 egg. You're going to need a little bit of either skim 1% or almond milk. You're going to need 1/3 cup of Greek yogurt. This is my homemade Instant Pot yogurt. As long as it is plain, fat-free Greek yogurt, you're good. You're going to need 1½ tablespoons of butter cubed, 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree, and your various measuring devices, mixing bowls, etc. So that is what, oh, you are also going to need some parchment paper or a Silpat mat and baking sheets. So let's get this started. Before we get started, I did forget to mention in my ingredients, the ingredients for the glaze. You're going to need 1/4 cup of powdered sugar and a little bit of milk. You can also choose to use one of the powdered sugar replacements like a monk fruit. I don't like to do that because of that cooling sensation that you get in those type of sugars in large amounts. So I'm just going to use plain powdered sugar, and using 1/4 cup does not change the point value. So now let's get started. I've got 2 cups of self-rising flour, and we are going to whisk in all of our spices. So we are going to do 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. We are going to do 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. I grate my own nutmeg. I just love the flavor of it, but by all means, you can use ground nutmeg. Nutmeg is one of my absolute favorite spices of all time. So I do go a little heavy-handed on the nutmeg. We are going to do 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. We are going to do 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves and 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. And then we are just going to whisk all this together. And we are going to set it aside. And then we're going to take a little bowl, medium-sized bowl, and we are going to do 3/4 of a cup of the packed brown sugar substitute. Now, just be very careful of the kind of brown sugar substitute you use, because some of the ones, like I think it's the Splenda brand, it's a blend and it actually has points. So you're going to want a 0-calorie brown sugar substitute, which the monk fruit and the Sucre Gold and those ones are definitely 0 on for any amount. And now we're going to add in our 1½ tablespoons of butter. Now here's where it gets a little bit messy. We are just going to take our fingers, make sure they're clean, and almost like you're making a pastry crust, we are just going to combine this with our fingers until it's coarse and crumbly. Just take your time and really get it worked in there. You'll know, you'll be able to feel it when all of the sugar is definitely coated in some of the butter. Okay, that looks really good. I'm just going to get all that goodness back into the bowl, and then I'm going to go wash my fingers. Okay, next we are going to whisk together the egg, the vanilla, the yogurt, and our pumpkin puree, 1/2 cup. All of the tools I use in my kitchen can be found linked below in my Amazon store. If there's anything you think you need, just click on that link and check them out. I'm just going to mix this together really well. And then set that aside. Now we're going to start combining all of our different bowls together. First thing we're going to do is add the brown sugar to the flour mixture and get that incorporated. That smells so good. And once that's good, there's going to be some lumps in it from the butter, and that's okay. And then we are going to mix in our pumpkin mixture. Make sure you preheat your oven to 400 degrees while you're getting all this ready. And then we're just going to start gently mixing it, folding it, mixing it, folding it. If after you've mixed it all together, you think it's too dry, you can start adding in your milk, 1 tablespoon at a time. But you do want somewhat of a stiff dough, so keep mixing. Don't add your milk too early, because you want to be able to shape these into the scone form. I am not going to add any milk because I think this is a really good consistency. It's going to hold together when I shape it and cut it. Okay, it's all incorporated and not over mixed. And now it's time to shape it. We're not doing this like the traditional scone where you pat it down into a circle and then cut it into triangles. We are going to put it in a rectangle and cut it into triangles that way. And you can do that one of two ways. You can flour your counter, put it right out on the counter, or you can use a pastry mat. I am going to use a pastry mat, so I'm going to get that ready and get this dumped out of the bowl, and we're going to get shaping. Okay, so I did end up flouring my mat because the dough is a little bit sticky, and I floured my hands a little bit, and I am just going to pat it out until it is a 7.5 by 12 rectangle. And about 1/2 inch thick. And I have my handy dandy little ruler. We're not even close. So I'm just taking my time, making sure it stays even thickness. We're good that way. We just have to get them 12 inches long. Almost. Like I said, just take your time and ease the dough. We're getting there. The dough is delicate, so I don't want to use a rolling pin because I don't want it smushed. You see all these beautiful air pockets, and I want to keep those. So we're just going to ease it. Almost. This is therapeutic for me, so I don't mind if something takes a little bit longer, because there is no place that I would rather be than in my kitchen creating good food. And if you know me, you know that about me. I do pretty much everything in our lives from scratch, and I absolutely get choked up about it, apparently. I absolutely love it. Grab a drink. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, you can do this one of two ways. If you would like larger scones, you can cut right down the middle. If you would like smaller scones, like mini scones, if you're serving them like with a whole bunch of other treats and sweets, or you want to put them on a beautiful like tiered tray, you can make them mini by cutting 3 rows. I think we're going to do traditional size. We're going to cut them into 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut right down the middle with my pizza cutter. You can use a knife, a pizza cutter, whatever. And then I am going to cut them into 3 squares. And this is 12 inches long. So we're going to go 4 inches about each square. And then each square is going to get cut into a triangle. Okay, probably would have been a good idea to flour that a little bit after the first couple. Now we have our prepared tray. I just have my baking sheet with a piece of parchment paper on there. And very carefully, because like I said, this dough is sticky, we're going to just lift them up. First one's always tough. And put them right on the baking sheet. You're going to need 2 baking sheets. You're not going to be able to fit them all on the one. And if they lose their shape, you can just kind of push it back. We're going to just put those all on our sheet, and then we are going to bake them in a 400-degree oven for 12 to 14 minutes until they are set and the center is done. So I'm going to finish getting those on my sheet, get them in the oven, and we'll take a look when they're done. Okay, our first batch is out of the oven and cooled completely. So what I'm going to do is glaze them. Now, normally I would just brush the glaze on, but we're going to try something a little fancy. Since this is a Halloween sweets collab, we're going to try to pipe like a spider web on there. So to make the glaze, I have a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, and I'm just going to start with about a teaspoon of milk. And mix it until you have that glaze consistency. Now I want this a little thicker since I'm going to pipe it, so that is perfect. Now I'm just going to take the glaze and put it in my piping bag that I have fitted with just a small round tip. Like I said, we're going to attempt this. I'm trying to think of how to do a spider web. I think like when it's on the people's houses, how it kind of goes across the porch and then down. Kind of looks spider webby, doesn't it? So like I said, you can either do this or you can just take a brush, make it a little bit thinner and brush it on, or you can just take a fork or your whisk and drizzle it. But since this is Halloween, we might as well make it a little scary. So I'm going to finish these up and I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Well, there you have it, my friends. My Halloween sweet treat, pumpkin scones. I will say the amount of glaze did not cover all the scones when I piped it on. It would definitely cover if it was brushed on, but piped on it took a little bit more. So I was only able to do 8 of them. So I just mixed up some of the monk fruit, powdered sugar, and finished off the rest because I didn't want to change the points. Speaking of points, On the blue plan and the purple plan, 1 scone is 3 points, 2 scones are 7 points, and on the green plan, 1 scone is 4 points, and 2 scones are 7 points. So, pretty good sweet treat for not a whole lot of points, and I can't wait to dig into one with a cup of tea. So thank you so much for watching, and a huge thank you to Denise over at Dish with D for coming up with this collaboration and for inviting me to be a part of it. Don't forget, down in the description box below is the link to this recipe and also the links to Denise's channel and all the other ladies and gentlemen that are participating in this collab. So make sure you go check them out, show them some subscription love. And speaking of that, if you're not subscribed to my channel, I would love you to be a part of my community. So please click on that subscription bell icon and the notification bell, and you'll know every time I upload. I upload several times a week. I do what I eat in a day. I do weekly weigh-ins as a lifetime member. I do day in the life, weekends. You never know what's going to show up on my channel because I just want to show that I am more than just the Weight Watcher label. So we do a lot of fun stuff around here. So please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Thanks again, and I will see you in my next video.